1996, the Olympics had a torch run across the United States. And we'll start out just talking a little bit about Olympics. Does anybody know where the first Olympics was held? Where?
USA.
No. The first Olympics was way back at the beginning of the counting of time back even before Christ's time in Greece. And they had the games so that they would promote fellowship and friendship and also athletic competition. So back in 1896, they decided to renew the Olympic Games, and the first modern Olympic Games was also held in Athens, Greece. And one of the things they did there was they had a torch with a flame in it. And they have kept that flame burning in Athens, Greece for the Olympic flame. So every time there's a new Olympics, they carry the flame from Athens, Greece to wherever the Olympics are. So let me tell you about, I don't know if y'all remember the last Olympics. Y'all remember what the last Olympics was about? No. The last Olympics was the Winter Olympics. And here's some pictures from the Winter Olympics. Now, I don't know if you remember or not, but Tiger Woods was dating a girl named Lindsey Vonn. And Lindsey Vonn won a gold medal in skiing. She was kind of an older skier, and she was dating Tiger Woods. And since that Olympics, Tiger Woods and Lindsey Vonn had broke up, you know. And since the Olympics, Tiger Woods has actually won a Masters golf tournament. So they have summer and winter Olympics. And so that was a year and a half ago. So y'all know what next year is? The Summer Olympics. Mm-hmm. And so the torch that I carried was for the Summer Olympics in 1996. This is an old torch, and actually it got dropped at one of my presentations, and so it kind of don't hold together anymore. But I'll show you a little bit about the torch. So what happened in 1996 was that they went to Athens, Greece with one of these torches, and they lit that torch, and they put it on an airplane, and they flew it all the way to Los Angeles, California. Rayford Johnson, who won a gold medal in 1960, was the very first torch runner in the United States. And the very last torch runner, let me see if anybody knows this, he was a very famous boxer.
Mike Tyson.
And he won the gold medal in 1960, became the world's heavyweight champion of the world, and was probably noted as the most famous athlete in 1996 in the world. Who was that? Muhammad Ali. So Muhammad Ali was the very last torch bearer, and he actually took the torch from Summer Sanders, and he went up the stairs and lit this cauldron, and the cauldron went up to the torch. And so he was the very last one. So between Rayford Johnson and Muhammad Ali, there were 15,000 people that carried the torch, and I was somewhere in between there. So I got a couple of pictures I want to show you a little bit. Y'all can pass this around. So y'all know whose classroom this is right here?
No, I've never been in this classroom.
This is Coach Dunlap's classroom. And she coaches soccer. And this is a picture of Coach Dunlap when she was 5 years old, the day of the Olympic torch. So this is her holding my torch, and that's my daughter. Coach Dunlap's my daughter. So I will pass that around and let y'all look at that. That's Coach Dunlap. And then one of the things that we did that day, we ate breakfast that morning, and as you see, at 9 a.m. was when the torch came to Decatur. Well, right after breakfast, they put us on a bus, and we had a very special thing that happened in Decatur. They actually put a plaque up down on Bank Street about the Olympic torch being taken that day. Here's a picture of the people that were at breakfast that morning and the people that did the torch. And if you'll notice me, and right beside me is Arthur Orr, who's Jack Orr's dad, who spoke to y'all this morning. He was also a torchbearer, so you can see if you can find me and Jack Orr. Also, Gary Reedus, who was a baseball player, famous baseball player from Decatur. You'll see him in that picture, and Judge Lang. So I wanted to show you all those things. So a little bit about the torch. What we did at the very bottom, there was a valve, and right before the runner got there with the torch, you would turn that valve on, and you would reach like this, and it would light. Then you would go down to the next runner and light their torch, and then you would turn the valve off. So this was the 100th anniversary of the Olympics, and it was being held in Atlanta. We had never had an event in the South like this, and so this was a big thing for everyone here in the Olympics. Let me tell you a little bit about the torch run that day. So it came in Decatur over the river bridge, and Arthur Orr was one of the guys that took it over the bridge. It came down through Decatur, down through Bank Street, down to City Hall by the Princess Theater, over Gordon Drive. And number 23 right here, that was me. This was going out towards the end of Decatur, going out towards Moulton Street, in the corner of Moulton and Memorial Drive. I don't know if y'all know where that is, but it's going on the west side of Decatur. And I carried it there, and I gave it to a guy on a bicycle, and he carried it on to Oakville. And we'll talk about Oakville here in a minute. Let me tell you how many people, have y'all ever been to any of the parades downtown, the homecoming parade or something like that? You know, when you go down that parade route, there might be one or two people. Now, sometimes in some of the business places, there might be two people deep. Well, that day, there was almost 100,000 people downtown Decatur. It was so thick, they were 7 and 8 deep, all the way through Decatur. And down by the courthouse, there was probably 5,000 people in front of the courthouse. Some of the things that they did that day was that we were on buses that were, actually Coca-Cola was one of the sponsors, and they had these buses that came through. And so they had a police escorts, and a bus would come through with all the runners, and they would drop us off where these flag torchbearers were. And then as the end of the run came through and the flame came through, then they picked us up on the bus and took us back. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Olympics in '96. It was in Atlanta. Has anybody ever been to Atlanta?
No.
No? Okay. So there were all kinds of things being sold that day. And this was a t-shirt, and these are not actual signatures, but they kind of printed this shirt, but they did get the signatures. They were raising money for Olympic aid to some of the countries that were very poor. One of the guys on here's name was Michael Jordan. Anybody ever heard of Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
All right.
What?
April Fool's.
Was he a soccer player?
And there was some other guys on here that you might know. There's a guy named Bart Connors, who was a famous gymnast. There was Muhammad Ali's name's on here. Summer Sanders I talked to her a little bit about her. She was a swimmer. There was Phil Neighbors, who was a track guy. But a lot of the people that y'all probably don't know a lot about, but they were Olympic stars. Let me see if you know this guy. This talks about some of the Olympics. Y'all might know this guy. When I was your age, my Olympic hero was Bruce Jenner. He was the decathlon winner. And he was what they call the best athlete in the world. He won 10, in decathlon stands for 10 events. Now, y'all may not recognize him because now he's a woman. He was once married to the Kardashians. And if you remember, he just changed into a woman. So that's what he looked like when he was a man. And he was the world's greatest athlete. Huh? That's Bruce Jenner when he was a man and the greatest athlete in the world. Okay. So This talks about, there's actually you can go and see this monument here in Decatur. It's down by the old bank. You'll see the old state bank is right here, and this monument is right here. So if you go to the last slide. So, I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about this slide, and then we'll talk about Olympics. So does anybody know who this guy is right here?
Jesse
Owens.
You said
Jesse Owens.
You saying both?
See, the first class I had didn't even know who that was. So, Jesse Owens in 1936 won 4 gold medals. Nobody had ever done that before. He won 4 gold medals.
He fast.
He was the fastest man in the world. He won the 100, that's when you win the 100-yard dash or the 100-meter dash, like Usain Bolt, they call you the fastest man in the world. So he was the fastest man in the world. You can look at this screen right here, and you can see how much he's beating everybody else. He was also the greatest long jump person that there was at that time. He also did the hurdles. And he also was part of the relay team that won the 4 gold medals. So Jesse Owens was born in Oakville. And Oakville's about 20 miles from Decatur right here over in Lawrence County. He still has family that lives in that area. And so he was born there. He went through track. He went through track up in I think either Ohio or Michigan, somewhere up in there, but he did his track there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what's so important, and the reason that the torch run came through Decatur was actually because they were going to Oakville to recognize Jesse Owens. So you say, well, what's so significant about Jesse Owens? When you talk about Alabamians, who are the most famous Alabamians, Jesse Owens is one of the most famous. So let's get to this picture right here. Okay, so this is like the gold medal ceremony. I don't know, how many of y'all watched the Olympics before? Anybody ever watched it? So when you win a gold medal, they have a platform, and they have the top platform for the gold, then they have a little bit lower one for the silver, a little bit lower one for the bronze. But they always play the national anthem of whoever wins the gold medal. So in this picture, they're playing the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, and Jesse Owens is saluting. So what is this guy right here doing?
Honor him.
Huh?
Doing the flag.
Oh, Germany.
Doing the flag.
Germany.
Give him the Germany.
Doing the flag.
Germany.
So, back in that time, in 1936, if you know anything about history, Adolf Hitler was the dictator of Germany. Adolf Hitler's political platform was that he believed that the Aryan race, or the German white race, was the superior of anybody in the world. And when he would speak, the Germans would always salute him like this, Heil Hitler. So this guy is saluting Hitler. What's so significant about this, and this is very sad, is that after this Olympics, within 3 years, Hitler had started taking over countries. And then the Jewish people that lived in Germany and the surrounding countries, he actually loaded them on a train car. He took them to a big furnace, and he took off their clothes because they wanted to save their clothes, and threw them naked into the furnace and burned them up. It's called the Holocaust.
Oh, that.
And this was 4 years before all that started. So why do I talk to you about that, and what's significant about Jesse Owens? So what's so significant about this Alabamian that was in this Olympics in 1936? The United States had the pressure of going to Germany, and Germany was about to take over the world and fixing to do crimes on millions and millions of people. You know, there's 3 million people in Alabama right now, almost 4. You know that they killed more people burning them than is in Alabama. They killed 7 million people. And so 4 years before, an Alabamian, he stood up to Adolf Hitler. And way before Martin Luther King or any of the other people that fought for our rights, was an Alabamian, Jesse Owens, in Berlin. You know, not only did this in the United States, he went to Berlin, right where they were about to start World War II, and he did this. Hitler had planned these Olympics to be a big PR move for Germany. He was going to prove to the world how superior the German people were. But Jesse Owens and the U.S. Olympic team came in and stole his thunder, you know, kind of to say. They took away all the things that he was going to try to say how much better they were. Well, it didn't matter to Hitler because he had hypnotized his whole country, and just a few years later, they took on their march and they started World War II. And a lot of your ancestors had to go and fight in World War II to make sure this didn't happen all over the world. So that's why Oakville is so important, and so important that you have an Alabamian that only lives 20 miles from here that stood up to the whole world and showed how powerful he was. So when you're doing sports, how many athletes we have in here? Okay. So when you're doing sports and you're playing for your team and you're playing for pride and you're playing for your school, think about some of the roots that you have right here in Alabama. Is that you had somebody back in 1936, and that's going to be almost 80 years ago, that stood up for the world. So now I wanted to finish up. We got a little bit of other time to show you a little bit more about the Olympic torch. So this was my uniform, this shirt and these pants. Now I told Coach Dunlap I would not model these pants for y'all today. So I used to could fit into these a lot better, but so everybody that carried the torch, they required us to have white socks. And you know, it wasn't the little bitty socks like that right now. You know, back then we wore socks up to about right here, you know. So we had tall white socks and white tennis shoes. So that's what we had to get. We had to get white socks and white tennis shoes. And even Muhammad Ali that night, he had on this exact same outfit with white socks and white tennis shoes. So they wanted all the Olympic torch runners to look exactly the same that we were carrying the torch. So these were the shorts. I didn't make that on there today. I've been involved in some other torch for Olympics. I have a friend of mine that is a retired police officer from Raleigh, North Carolina. And 4 years ago, they had the Special Olympics for the world in Los Angeles. And they did a torch run all across the United States, and there was a torch run in Birmingham. And so I went down there to meet him and just kind of watched the torch run. Well, little did I know that it was on one of the busiest streets in Birmingham, and he had little kids and all that was going to participate and all. And so he had to kind of walk with those kids to make sure nobody got hurt. So I rode in the chase car and helped him with that torch run in Birmingham. So that was really neat. The next thing I wanted to show you, 3 years ago, there was what they called the Senior Olympics for the United States. And it was in Birmingham. And they had all kinds of events in Birmingham, and it was in July. I went down to the softball area. They had people 75 and 80 years old out there playing softball. It was 100 degrees, and I thought I was going to die just watching them. And they were out there doing the Olympics in Birmingham. And I think that the World Senior Olympic Games are coming to Birmingham in 2 years. And so it's amazing because, how old do y'all think I am?
80.
80.
90.
44. 57.
So I turned 60 next year.
For real?
And so it was funny to watch people a lot older than me out there just doing a whole lot more than I ever could do. So there are other Olympics. And so I wanted to get to this, is that next year is the year 2020. And there's going to be Olympics, okay? And so now's the time to kind of start thinking a little bit about the Olympics. and what sports that you might want to look at. And they are actually, I had a niece that trained for the Olympics. Her family moved to Houston, and she was a gymnast. And they trained with Bella Caroli, back in 1988. And we got to meet the whole 1988 Olympic team, and she was supposed to be on the Olympics in 1992, but she broke both her feet. So she teaches gymnastics here in town at Calhoun Twisters, or Calvin's Twisters. So she teaches there, but we got to meet some of the Olympics there. So next year is the Summer Olympics, so I'm gonna find out from y'all, let y'all talk a little bit, see how many Olympic sports that you know. So let's get over here. Do y'all know any Olympic sports? No? How about y'all? Y'all know any Olympic sports?
Swimming.
Tennis is one of them. Yeah, Venus Williams has been in the tennis play. Gymnastics, do y'all know who the world champion is, and also the person that won the all-around and women's gymnastics last?
Gabby Douglas.
Gabby was
Simone Taylor.
Simone Biles. So Gabby won the gold, it would now be 8 years ago, and Simone won it, it'll be almost 4 years ago. And Simone is still, she's 20-something years old, and she's still winning the world championship, so she may win the Olympics next year. She's one of the greatest gymnasts. How about y'all? Y'all know any Olympic sports? Swimming. They have all kinds of swimmers. One of the most famous, probably won more Olympic medals than anybody, was who? Michael Phelps. He's one of the greatest of all time swimmers. And let me see, anybody know any other Olympic sports over here?
Shot put.
Baseball.
Okay, shot put. There is a shot put Olympic things. And that's where you have I don't know if it's 5 or 10 pound shot, and you have to throw it. Basketball. So, that's kind of changed over the years. They used to not let professional athletes play basketball, but all the European countries were sending their professionals there. And so the United States have won most of the gold medals in basketball, but there's been 2 or 3 years that they haven't. Michael Jordan was part of the first Dream Team. Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, those are some of the guys on that Dream Team.
What about volleyball?
What about volleyball? So one of the big changes in Olympics has been volleyball, because when I was watching it, when I was your age, it was all about a gym. But now what do? They have beach volleyball. So you'll see it in the gym, but probably more popular is the beach volleyball. And they actually have the sand there, and they usually wear bathing suits to compete and those type of things. So what about right over here? Y'all know any Olympic sports? What?
Oh, Olympic sports?
Looks like you were doing some karate or something like that, but they do have judo. Judo is actually Olympic sports. Anybody know?
Javelin.
Huh?
Javelin.
What'd you say?
Javelin.
The javelin. So let's talk about, they have what they call track and field. Does anybody run track or do any track? Anybody? Okay.
Yeah, I used to.
When you talk about track and field, there are all kinds of course, the first thing we talked about is Usain Bolt in the running, but there's the javelin. Javelin where you throw that, there's the pole vault, there is the discus, long jump, there's the triple jump. There are all kinds of events with, does anybody know what the hammer throw is? Anybody know what a hammer is? What is a hammer?
A hammer like a big long stick.
Well, actually, the hammer is like a big,
It's like a ball.
lead weight, and it's on like a pulley. And they start swinging that hammer and go around, and they bring it around their head, and they swing it. And you think about those guys that are judges out there, it's pretty easy to get hurt out there. I used to like be judging the javelin, and the wind catches it, and it comes and hits you in the heart, it'll kill you. So those judges have to be very careful the way they're judging things. So let's see if we can find any other Olympic sports. What about any of you ladies right here? Y'all know any? Huh? Dressage. Y'all know what that is?
Archery.
Archery? Jumping jack.
It's horses.
Oh, wrestling.
Horses.
Exercise.
They have horses that jump, and they have show horses and things like that. So there are things like shooting. They have different people that have different shooting. And actually, they have shooting in the summer that are kind of more targets. And in the winter, they have this crazy sport where that they get on skis and they carry a rifle on their back and they go across the country and they come to a stop and they shoot and then they go some more and shoot. And that's kind of crazy, but Winter Olympics has a lot of crazy sports.
Fencing?
Huh?
Fencing?
Fencing is one. You know, one of the sports they're bringing back is softball, women's softball. They had it and they won a bunch of gold medals, and now they're bringing it back this year. So what I wanted to tell y'all is this, and we'll have just a few minutes. The Summer Olympics are coming up. Before you end school this year, you're gonna start seeing the trials. It could be that one of y'all might be a part of the Olympics at some time. You never know. You know, Bo Jackson didn't know that he was gonna get a chance to be in the Olympics, and he actually was in snowboard, and the bobsled. And so he was one of the guys on the bobsled pushing the bobsled off. You never know where that's gonna take you, and you can represent your country, but if you're not gonna be an athlete, to be in the Olympics, you can always follow it. And next summer, you'll hear about all those coverages. What I want you to do is think about Jesse Owens. I wanted to tell y'all about a historical event in Decatur back in 1996. And the reason it was historic for us, because it connected us with Jesse Owens back in 1936. That was a pioneer in standing up for civil rights. And so, if you get a chance, visit over in Oakville, just 20 miles away, Jesse Owens' birthplace, and they have all kinds of clips that shows what an amazing athlete that he was. There's a lot of great things about Alabama, and as an Alabamian, when they ask you, they'll say, well, what's going on in your state? I hope that you will remember after today who Jesse Owens is, and you can tell them he's from right here where I live. You can say, where do you live? In Decatur, Alabama. Well, where's that? It says, well, it's in North Alabama. We have a famous Alabamian, Jesse Owens, lives about 20 miles from me. Okay? All right, y'all got any questions? All right. Well, listen, appreciate y'all coming and talking with y'all today. I think it's about time to change it.